all. This is Dr. Mubin Sayed. Welcome to one more show. So, the discussion today is outside of a study. It is actually a review of an article about India and Pfizer vaccine. So, let's look at it together. This is an article in the Daily Guardian. And before you said, hey, this is a controversial small newspaper, there are actually other papers. For example, this is Reuters, and this is Fortune, and this is Reuters again. So I have other references here as well. But Anu Lal, in this article, she has done a good job of putting the things together. So why India did not allow Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine? And I'm not going to read the whole thing, just some thoughts. So Pfizer never came to India. Pfizer applied for clearance for its vaccine in 2020. Indian regulators demanded a local safety and immunogenicity study. Such bridging studies are common world over. All other foreign vaccine makers had conducted similar studies in India, but Pfizer refused to do a local trial. In addition, Pfizer wanted legal immunity and protection against injury, which India refused. The USA provides legal immunity to vaccine manufacturers. India does not have any such law, and we did not change our laws for Pfizer. So I am reading from the article. So then she goes into the history of the legal immunity. So she talks about that in the US, there is a program called National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program, popularly known as vaccine courts. And this was the pharmaceutical manufacturer lobbied to enact the Vaccine Injury Act of 1986, protecting vaccine makers from legal liability. So if a vaccine caused injury, the manufacturer went scot-free. So this is, again, I'm reading the article, this is her wording. Instead, the government paid compensation from taxpayers' money up to maximum of $250K. So what she's saying is that over here in the US, if there is a vaccine injury, so it's not the vaccine company's responsibility, it's the government's responsibility, which is using our money and paying us back. But that payment is $250K. Plus, it is a civil court case and not a criminal case. Injuries were tried like a civil tort case and not a criminal suit. So she says that as a lawyer, I could never digest such a blatantly partisan law and worked against ordinary citizens. How could an advanced country like US allow such an unfair and prejudiced law? So again, I think that if you look at both sides, you would find reasons on this side as well. But once again, I wanted to make sure that you see this article. So then what happens is she goes into the COVID-19 panic, negotiations, global arm twisting. So, and we had actually discussed some of these things as well. For example, Pfizer wanted indemnification, protection, and for example, we offered that here in the US. Then Europe, by September 2020, European regulators indemnified vaccine makers against unexpected side effects. So indemnified means made them free of the liability for those. Executive Board of Vaccines, Europe signed contracts with confidential liability clauses with AstraZeneca and Sanofi for all 27 EU states. Australia followed suit. In Latin America, and remember we had actually done this discussion once before as well, that in Argentina, Pfizer wanted access to bank reserves or military bases, meaning assets. It's not that they really wanted the military bases, I think, to go to a war using those military bases. But whatever assets were present, they said, write those assets as a collateral for us. So in Latin America, pharmaceutical bullying went a notch higher. In addition to legal indemnity, Pfizer demanded protection against their own negligence and mistakes. Argentina amended its vaccine law 3 times, yet Pfizer was not happy. Pfizer wanted Argentina's bank reserves and military bases as guarantees. So in the era of neo-colonialism, pharma industry was New East India Company. So again, that is one person. She is a lawyer. These are her opinion pieces. This is an article. It's not a study. So she then writes that India stood its ground. India asked for the local trials. India refused to amend its laws to offer some special indemnities or legal immunities. So what happened was, this is what I did not know. I knew the other things, but this is what I did not know, that meanwhile, a huge PR propaganda started. The narrative was Pfizer can save India, but the bureaucracy was dragging its feet while people were dying, etc. So despite such pressure, India didn't succumb. Eventually, Pfizer withdrew its application in 2021. We continued our vaccine program with drugs that complied with our legal requirements. Again, this is Anulal talking about India. So now she's saying that recently there are more countries calling out Pfizer. And then she says the learning from India is that, number one, Indians are hardwired to look towards the West for thought leadership. And this is actually true for my country, my previous country as well. Now I'm an American. But this is true that many countries actually look towards US and look towards CDC and FDA for medical decisions, and towards West in general for thought leadership, as she writes. I know many discussions I've had with my friends, my colleagues, my friends back in Pakistan. And if I would say, hey, you might be looking at this thing, or this might be a good intervention, they would simply say, well, your own CDC or FDA doesn't recommend it. Why should we look into this? So yes, that is true that this thought leadership from West has been sought for a long time. But in this case, India is the only large market in the world that doesn't protect vaccine manufacturers against citizens, which is a good thing. We did not create laws to benefit anyone, yet remained open to every possibility. So, in our simple way, with limited resources, we went about doing things with humanity and common sense, not giving in to panic. So, this is the article. I think it kind of captures the whole events in a very simple and succinct way. Then there are some other articles as well that I would like you to see. This is February 18, 2021. Fact check. Did India ban the Pfizer Covid-19 vaccine? Because I know that there was some news that became that India has banned them. So again, if you look at the whole thing, at the end of the day, they would say, as you are seeing here, that India actually did not ban the Pfizer vaccine, but India did not change the laws for Pfizer. Plus, India demanded local trials for Pfizer. Pfizer refused for those. India refused for the laws changing. And eventually, these two parties could not work with each other. So on February 5, Reuters reported Pfizer Inc. withdrew its application for emergency use authorization of its COVID vaccine in India after the meeting with the regulators. A Pfizer Inc. spokesperson told Reuters at the time, based on the deliberations at the meeting and our understanding of additional information that the regulator may need, the company has decided to withdraw its application at this time. So then they say, this is again 2021 February. For now, 2 vaccines are approved in India. One is the Oxford AstraZeneca and the other one is Covaxin. And we discussed those as well. So interesting. Then here is another analysis. India shifts from mass vaccine exporter to importer, worrying the world. So this was another article. Again, look at the time. This is April 15, 2021, where India is one of the biggest exporters of the vaccines. And of course, with the pandemic, they became the importers. They wanted to have the vaccines too. And in this case, I still remember that there was a lot of messaging that, hey, all countries should have equity and we should all get vaccines, etc. But again, even with that need, it's interesting that they held their ground and they simply said that, hey, do a local trial and no additional benefiting laws. This is another. India needs Pfizer vaccine, but company demand for legal protection is holding up things. This is another. This is September 21, 2021. India government won't buy Pfizer Moderna vaccine amid local output sources. So various ways to look at this news, but at the end of the day, the basic idea is that one, India does not protect any vaccine manufacturer. I would believe their own as well from vaccine injury or liability. And secondly, in the case of pandemic as well, they did not go out of their way to change the laws or indemnify the companies, at least Pfizer. So this is the discussion. What do you think? Do we have good laws here in the US? Vaccines have their benefits, and vaccines can, in some cases, cause harm as well. Do we have the right laws? Do they allow the companies, pharmaceutical companies, to flourish, do more trials, learn more, produce better products, continue to produce products? Or is it more of a political outcome and it is less citizen friendly? What do you think? And with this, thank you very much, and I would see you again. Bye bye.